chosen one. Have you ever wondered why you survived what should have destroyed you? Why you're still breathing when others with half your pain gave up? Why God allowed you to walk through hell just to bring you here? Listen to me, chosen one. There are dates that pass by unnoticed, and then there are divine appointments that split time itself. The 30th of June, 2025 isn't just another Monday on your calendar. It's the moment when the invisible becomes undeniable, when heaven's silence breaks, when your spiritual exile finally ends. You've been carrying something in your spirit, a weight, an expectation, a knowing that you couldn't explain to anyone. They called it hope, you called it desperation. But God calls it prophecy. And what's been circling your life for years, what's been waiting in the shadows of your prayers, is about to step into the light. Only 1% will recognize what's coming. Only 1% have been prepared for this level of divine intervention. The question is, are you part of that 1%? Before we go deeper, I need you to do something. Type "I'm ready" in the comments right now. Not for me, but as a signal to the heavens. Let every force that's been working against you know that you're still standing, still believing, still here. And to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks, your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel forgotten in their calling. Whether you sow a seed today or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your time, your attention, your faith, it all matters in ways you can't imagine. Now, chosen one, let me tell you why this message found you today, why your spirit is already stirring, why something deep inside you is saying finally, even though you don't know what's coming yet. You've been through the fire not because God forgot you, but because He was forging you. You've walked through valleys that had no names, not because you were lost, but because you were being hidden. You felt forgotten, overlooked, passed by, not because you weren't chosen, but because your time hadn't come. Until now, the 30th of June marks the end of your spiritual winter. The breakthrough you've been praying for isn't coming anymore, chosen one. It's already here. It's been circling, waiting. And now, it's time for the reveal. You've been praying for confirmation. This is it. Stay with me. What I'm about to show you will explain everything. Why do you feel like you're fighting battles that nobody else can see? Why does it seem like every victory costs you more than it should? Why are you tired in places that sleep can't touch? Some battles don't leave scars on the skin. They leave bruises on the soul. And if you're watching this right now, chosen one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been in a war that most people don't even know exists. A war that's been raging in the invisible realm, while you've been trying to hold it together in the visible one. You've outlived people you thought you'd grow old with. You've buried dreams that once kept you awake at night with excitement. You've been the strong one, the backbone, the prayer warrior in your family. But lately, even your knees feel tired when you try to pray. Even your faith feels heavy when you try to lift it up. And in those quiet moments, when nobody's looking, when nobody's asking how you're doing, you whisper the question that terrifies you most. God, is this it? Is this all there is? Did I miss my moment? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. What if I told you that every delay wasn't punishment but protection? What if the silence wasn't God forgetting you but God hiding you? What if every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every night you cried yourself to sleep wasn't evidence of His absence but proof of His preparation? You see, the enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your season is over, that your best days are behind you, that you're too old, too tired, too broken to be used for something magnificent. He's whispered lies that you've started believing. You missed your chance. Other people get the miracles. God has favorites, and you're not one of them. But here's what the devil doesn't want you to know. The very fact that you're still here, still breathing, still believing, even when your faith feels threadbare, that's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's divine preservation. God has been keeping you alive for the 30th of June, 2025. David knew this invisible war. When he was hiding in caves, running from Saul, watching lesser men sit on thrones while he slept on rocks, he cried out in Psalm 13, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" But look what happened next. The same David who felt forgotten became the king who unified a nation. The same David who felt hidden became the warrior whose name still echoes through eternity. You've been in your cave season. You've been in your wilderness. You've been asking, how long? But what you don't realize is that every day you survived in that cave was training for the palace. Every tear you shed in secret was watering the ground for your public breakthrough. The invisible war isn't about what you can see going wrong. It's about what you can't see going right. While you've been fighting depression, God's been fighting your enemies. While you've been battling loneliness, Heaven's been battling for your destiny. While you've been wrestling with doubt, angels have been wrestling with forces trying to steal your the 30th of June surprise. Ephesians 6:12 tells us plainly, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age." This isn't some abstract spiritual concept. This is your reality. This is why some days feel harder than they should. This is why breakthrough feels so close but just out of reach. This is why you felt like you're swimming upstream while everyone else is floating downstream. But here's what's about to change everything. The same invisible realm that's been working against you is about to work for you. The same spiritual forces that have been delaying your blessing are about to deliver it. The same enemy that's been fighting your future is about to witness your victory. You know what I'm talking about because you've felt it stirring. That restlessness in your spirit, that sense that something's about to shift, that unexplainable hope that keeps rising up even when your circumstances say otherwise. That's not wishful thinking, that's prophetic awareness. Your spirit recognizes what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. The war is almost over, chosen one. Not because you're laying down your weapons, but because you're about to pick up new ones. Not because the enemy is retreating, but because reinforcements are arriving. Not because the battle is getting easier, but because you're about to discover you've been fighting from victory, not for victory. If you've ever whispered in the dark, "God, do you still see me?" I want you to write that in the comments right now. Watch how heaven responds. Because what I'm about to tell you next is going to prove that not only has he been watching, he's been orchestrating every single detail of your invisible war to set up your visible victory. The enemy thought he was wearing you down, but God has been building you up. The enemy thought he was breaking your spirit, but God has been fortifying your faith. The enemy thought he was stealing your time, but God has been buying your moment. And that moment has a date on it, the 30th of June, 2025. But before I show you what that moment contains, you need to understand something that will change how you see everything that's happened to you. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie the enemy has whispered about your age, your time, and your purpose. The 30th of June, 2025, isn't a coincidence rolling around on some cosmic calendar. It's a spiritual countdown that's been ticking in the heavens since before you took your first breath. Something has been maturing in the divine realm, something with your name written on it, and you, chosen one, are the only vessel it fits. The world has been lying to you. They've told you your best days are behind you. They've whispered that retirement means retreat. They've convinced an entire generation that grey hair means game over. But let me tell you something that'll rock you to your core. You've been in retirement from the world, but your anointing hasn't even clocked in yet. The world may call you past your prime, but in the spirit, dear one, you're just entering it. Think about this with me for a moment. When Abraham was 75 years old, God didn't say, "You're too old for promises." He said, "Pack your bags, we're just getting started." And at 100 years old, 100, when Sarah's womb was as good as dead, when everyone around them had written them off as ancient history. That's when Isaac was born. The promised child. The miracle baby. The one who would carry the blessing of nations. Moses was 80 when God called him from that burning bush. 80. In today's world, they would have handed him a rocking chair and a senior discount card. But God handed him a staff and said, "Now you're ready to part seas and lead millions." And Anna, precious Anna, the prophetess. The Bible tells us she was advanced in years, a widow for most of her life. While others saw an old woman shuffling around the temple, God saw a prophetic powerhouse. She was the one who recognized baby Jesus when Mary and Joseph brought him to the temple. Not the young priests, not the scholars, the elderly woman with eyes that had learned to see beyond the veil. There's a reason your life didn't end in chapter 12, beloved. Because chapter 13 is where the oil is. Chapter 13 is where the supernatural breaks through the natural. Chapter 13 is where decades of hidden preparation finally make sense. You want to know why you've felt restless lately? Why sleep doesn't come as easy as it used to? Why your spirit has been stirring with an unexplainable expectancy? It's because your internal clock is syncing up with heaven's timeline. Your soul knows something your mind hasn't figured out yet, that everything you've been through, every heartbreak, every loss, every closed door, every season of waiting, it's all been preparation for what's about to unfold. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your time has passed. He's used your children's success to make you feel obsolete. He's used your physical limitations to mock your spiritual authority. He's used society's obsession with youth to make you invisible. But what Satan doesn't understand, what he'll never understand, is that God's greatest warriors are forged in the furnace of experience. You've survived what would have destroyed weaker vessels. You've buried loved ones and still found reasons to praise. You've watched dreams die and still managed to dream again. You've seen promises delayed for decades and still held on to faith. Do you really think God put you through all of that just to sit you on the sidelines now? Here's what's happening in the spirit realm that most people can't see. There's a transfer taking place. The torch of intercession, the mantle of wisdom, the anointing of breakthrough. It's passing from one generation to another. And guess who's on the receiving end? You. The one they counted out. The one they overlooked. The one they thought was finished. The 30th of June represents the end of the waiting season and the beginning of the reaping season. You've sown in tears for decades. You've planted seeds with trembling hands. You've watered gardens you thought you'd never see bloom. But beloved, harvest time doesn't require young backs. It requires experienced hands that know the difference between fruit and flowers. Your grandchildren are going to witness something they've never seen before, their grandparent walking in supernatural authority. Your adult children are about to discover that the person they've been taking care of is actually the one carrying the keys to their breakthrough. Your community is about to realize that the elder they've been overlooking has been carrying the answer to their prayers all along. The question isn't whether you're too old for God to use you. The question is whether you're mature enough to handle what He's about to release through you. But here's what terrifies the enemy about what's coming. You have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. You're not trying to build a career, you're trying to leave a legacy. You're not worried about impressing people, you're focused on impacting eternity. You're not concerned with accumulating wealth, you're concerned with distributing wisdom. This makes you dangerous in the best possible way. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to discover what God has been preparing you for your entire life? Because the 30th of June isn't just bringing you a surprise, it's bringing you your assignment. Let me tell you who you really are, chosen one. And I mean really tell you, not the watered-down version the world gave you, not the broken identity trauma handed you, but the truth that's been buried under years of disappointment and delay. You are part of the 1%. And no, I'm not talking about wealth or status or some earthly achievement. I'm talking about something far more rare, far more precious, far more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. The 1% are those who didn't quit when quitting made perfect sense. The 1% are those who still believe in healing even after burying someone they loved with all their heart. The 1% are those who kept praying when heaven felt like brass, who kept worshipping in the wilderness, who kept believing for breakthrough when every circumstance screamed it's over. You're not watching this message because you're curious about some random prophecy. You're here because heaven still has you on assignment, and that assignment is about to be activated. Let me prove it to you. Let me show you the marks that identify the remnant, the chosen, the 1% who carry heaven's frequency in their spirit. You've sensed things before they happened, haven't you? Not just intuition. I'm talking about that deep knowing that settled in your gut hours, sometimes days before events unfolded. You've walked into rooms and felt the atmosphere shift. You've met people and instantly knew their heart condition without them saying a word. This isn't coincidence, chosen one. This is spiritual intelligence. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 2:14, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness." But you've been operating in spiritual discernment your entire life, even when you didn't know what to call it. You've carried burdens that weren't yours and broke chains in silence. How many nights did you find yourself praying for people who never asked you to? How many times did you feel weight on your spirit for situations that had nothing to do with your personal life? You thought it was just compassion, but God was using you as an intercessor, a barrier breaker, a spiritual bulldozer clearing paths for others. This is why your life has been so intense. This is why you've faced battles others never see. This is why rejection has followed you like a shadow, because the enemy recognizes what you carry before you do. He's been trying to take you out, not because of who you are today, but because of who you're becoming tomorrow. But here's what's about to shock you to your core. Everything you've endured, every tear you've cried, every night you've wrestled with God asking, "Why me?" It was never about what you would receive. You weren't just chosen to receive a blessing, chosen one. You were chosen to become one. Do you understand what that means? You are not the destination. You are the delivery system. You are not just the recipient of grace. You are the distributor of it. The breakthrough coming on the 30th of June isn't just for you, it's through you. This is why your preparation has been so intense. This is why your testing has been so severe. God doesn't give nuclear weapons to children. He doesn't release supernatural power through vessels that haven't been purified by fire. You've been in the furnace, yes, but not to be consumed, to be refined, to be strengthened, to be trusted with power that could change atmospheres. Listen to me carefully. The 1% don't get to live normal lives. The anointing on your life comes with a cost. Jesus said in Luke 12:48, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded." You've been given spiritual sight. You've been given discernment. You've been given the ability to carry heaven's frequency. And now heaven is about to demand a return on that investment. Are you ready for that level of responsibility? Because the 30th of June isn't just bringing you a blessing, it's bringing you an assignment that will require everything you've learned in your wilderness season. You see, the 1% understand something the masses never will. Breakthrough isn't just about getting something, it's about becoming someone. It's about transformation so complete that when people encounter you, they encounter the presence of God without you saying a word. Your struggles weren't random. Your pain wasn't pointless. Your isolation wasn't abandonment. It was preparation for a level of spiritual authority that only comes through deep intimacy with suffering and radical trust in divine timing. But here's the part that will make your spirit leap. The waiting is over. The preparation phase is complete. The 1% assignment you've been training for your entire life is about to be activated. And when it is, you won't just see change in your circumstances, you'll see change in your capacity, in your authority, in your ability to shift atmospheres and break chains that have held families, communities, even generations in bondage. The question isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether you're willing to step into the fullness of who God created you to be. knowing that nothing about your life will ever be ordinary again. Are you ready to discover what heaven has been preparing you for all along? Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will sound impossible until it starts happening to you. Right now, at this very moment, rooms are being prepared where your name is being discussed. Conversations are taking place in boardrooms, hospital corridors, law offices, and divine chambers that you've never stepped foot in. And by the 30th of June, the invitation will arrive. But here's what most people don't understand about divine surprises. They don't come with fireworks and fanfare. They arrive in the quiet. They slip through the back door of your ordinary Tuesday morning. They show up disguised as coincidence, wrapped in what looks like luck, but carrying the fingerprints of eternity. You've been asking God when, and He's been answering soon. But the 30th of June, that's when soon becomes now. Let me paint you a picture of what's already in motion. Your surprise isn't coming in one dramatic moment, it's unfolding in phases, like a divine symphony where each movement builds upon the last. Phase 1. The financial release. Something is shifting in your financial atmosphere. Not a lottery ticket from heaven, but wisdom wrapped in opportunity. Proverbs 13:22 tells us the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. For years, resources have been accumulating in accounts you've never seen, held in trust by a God who never forgets His promises. By the 30th of June, a door opens. Maybe it's a check that arrives unexpectedly. Maybe it's debt that disappears overnight. Maybe it's an opportunity that pays you for wisdom you thought nobody valued. It won't require your hustle, it will require your alignment. But here's the shocking truth most believers miss. God isn't just releasing money to you, He's positioning you to become a distributor of His abundance. You're not just receiving a blessing, you're becoming one. Phase 2. The divine reconnection. Someone is about to walk back into your life, or someone new is about to walk in for the first time. But this isn't random networking, this is holy orchestration. God has been preparing hearts in secret, aligning purposes across time zones, weaving destinies together in ways that will make you weep when you see the bigger picture. This connection carries keys to doors you didn't even know existed, keys to healing you thought was impossible, keys to dreams you buried under disappointment. When Jesus said in Matthew 18:19, "If two of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven," He wasn't talking about casual acquaintances. He was talking about divine connections, soul-level partnerships, assignments disguised as relationships. And here's what will shock you. This person has been praying for someone exactly like you at the exact same time you've been praying for breakthrough. Your paths have been calculated to intersect on God's timeline, not yours. Phase 3. The health restoration. For some of you, the 30th of June marks the beginning of physical restoration that medical science will call spontaneous remission. Others will experience emotional healing that therapists will call remarkable progress. But you'll know the truth. You'll know that Isaiah 53:5 is still active. By His wounds we are healed. What's been attacking your body has been fighting a losing battle. What's been assaulting your mind has been warring against the wrong target. You belong to the King of Kings, and His property doesn't stay broken. The cells in your body are about to remember their original design. The chemicals in your brain are about to realign with divine frequency. But here's the part that will leave you speechless. Your healing isn't just about you. Someone is watching your recovery, studying your comeback, witnessing your resurrection. Your healing becomes their hope. Your restoration becomes their revival. Phase 4. The legacy impact. This is where your surprise transcends your lifetime and touches eternity. Your grandchildren, born and unborn, are about to inherit something that money can't buy. A spiritual inheritance. A generational shift. A family name that carries weight in heavenly places. You thought you were just surviving your circumstances, but God was using your circumstances to forge a legacy. Every prayer you prayed in the darkness, every tear you cried in secret, every time you chose faith over fear, it was all being recorded, deposited, accumulated, and now it's about to be released as a spiritual inheritance that will impact generations you'll never meet on earth. Deuteronomy 7-9 promises that God's covenant love extends to 1,000 generations of those who love Him and keep His commandments. Your breakthrough isn't just breaking chains off your life, it's breaking chains off your bloodline. But here's the question that should make your soul tremble. What if everything you've been through wasn't about you getting something, but about you becoming something? What if your pain was preparation for your platform? What if your test was training for your testimony? I need you to understand something that will change how you see the 30th of June. This surprise isn't arriving because you earned it. It's arriving because you endured it. You didn't quit when quitting made sense. You didn't walk away when walking away looked logical. You didn't give up when giving up felt like relief. And heaven took notice. Right now, I want you to do something that might feel strange but is absolutely necessary. I want you to write this down, not type it. Write it with your hand. The 30th of June. God, I receive. That's not just a note. That's a covenant agreement. That's your signature on a spiritual contract. That's your faith intersecting with His timing. Because here's what happens when the chosen ones align their expectation with God's intention. Miracles stop hiding and start manifesting. But I have to warn you about something that might happen as the 30th of June approaches. Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to shake you to your core. Have you noticed that just when you thought you were finally getting somewhere, everything seemed to fall apart? That right when your prayers felt closest to being answered, hell itself seemed to break loose in your life? You're not losing your mind, you're not being punished, and you're definitely not forgotten. Right before a seed breaks through the soil, it faces its greatest pressure. The earth above it becomes heaviest, the darkness becomes thickest, the struggle becomes most intense. But that pressure isn't trying to kill the seed. That pressure is what forces the breakthrough. And right now, chosen one, you are that seed. The 30th of June is your breakthrough moment. But first, let's talk about why everything feels like it's crushing you. Look at your life these past few months. I bet people you trusted have turned cold. Family members who used to support you now question everything you do. Friends you thought would be there forever have mysteriously disappeared. Your own spouse might be looking at you like you're a stranger. Am I right? Here's what they don't tell you in Sunday school. The closer you get to your divine appointment, the more isolated you become. Not because God is abandoning you, but because He's separating you. Listen to what happened to Joseph. Genesis 37 tells us his own brothers, his blood, threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery. Why? Because they couldn't handle the favor on his life. They couldn't stand that God had chosen him for something they'd never touch. And the closer Joseph got to his destiny, the more his family turned against him. Sound familiar? Your isolation isn't rejection, it's selection. God is removing everyone who can't handle where you're going. Because what's coming on the 30th of June is so powerful, so divine, that only pure vessels can carry it. And sometimes, getting pure means getting alone. But that's not all, is it? Your body is exhausted. You wake up tired. You go to bed tired. You feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you can't figure out why. You've been to doctors. The tests come back normal, but your spirit feels like it's been through a war. That's because it has. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. You're not fighting a physical battle. You're fighting a spiritual one. And the enemy knows something you're just beginning to understand. Your breakthrough is so close, he can smell it. That's why he's throwing everything at you. That's why your finances are under attack. That's why your health feels shaky. That's why your family seems to be falling apart. The enemy attacks proximity. He hits hardest when you're closest to breakthrough. Think about it. Why would Satan waste his best ammunition on someone who wasn't a threat? Why would he send his strongest demons after someone who wasn't about to receive something powerful? You're not being attacked because you're weak. You're being attacked because you're dangerous. And here's the part that's going to blow your mind. Those prayers you've been whispering through tears, thinking God isn't listening. He's not just listening. He's been using every single one to build the very miracle that's about to manifest. Remember Hannah in 1 Samuel? She prayed so intensely for a child that the priest thought she was drunk. Year after year she cried out to God while her rival mocked her barrenness. But God wasn't ignoring her prayers. He was using her desperation to prepare her for something bigger than just a baby. He was preparing her to birth Samuel, a prophet who would change the entire nation. Your prayers haven't been bouncing off the ceiling. They've been building something in the spiritual realm. Something so massive that when it finally breaks through, it won't just change your life. It'll change your family line. It'll change your community. It'll change everyone who witnesses what God does through you. But right now, you're in the eye of the storm. Right now, everything feels chaotic. Your teenagers are acting out. Your marriage feels strained. Bills are piling up faster than you can pay them. And every time you try to pray, it feels like your words are hitting a brick wall. That's not spiritual defeat. That's spiritual labor pains. Think about a woman giving birth. Right before the baby comes, the contractions are the most intense. The pain is the most excruciating. She feels like she can't take another second. But that's not the baby dying. That's the baby coming. The pain isn't the end. The pain is the evidence that new life is about to emerge. What feels like warfare is actually labor pains. And just like a woman in labor, you can't stop the process now. You can't go back. You can't change your mind. This baby is coming whether you feel ready or not. This breakthrough is manifesting whether you think you deserve it or not. This divine surprise is landing on the 30th of June whether your circumstances look like it or not. The pressure you're feeling isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to deliver you. But here's what separates the 1% from everyone else. The 1% understand that the trial before the turn is not optional. David had to face Goliath before he could wear the crown. Moses had to wander in the wilderness before he could lead Israel out of Egypt. Jesus had to go through the cross before he could claim resurrection power. Your Goliath isn't your enemy. Your Goliath is your promotion exam. So let me ask you this. Are you going to let the pressure break you, or are you going to let it break you through? Because everything that's falling apart in your life right now is making room for what's about to fall into place. And on the 30th of June, you're going to understand why you had to go through hell to get to heaven. The question is, will you be ready to receive what's been fighting so hard to reach you? Chosen one. We've reached the sacred ground, the place where revelation meets activation, where knowledge transforms into power, where your spirit stops waiting and starts witnessing. What if everything you've survived was the training ground for your next 3 years? Think about it. Every sleepless night when anxiety gripped your chest, every moment you cried out to God and heard only silence, every time you watched others succeed while your dreams seemed to crumble. What if none of that was wasted? What if every tear was collecting in heaven's bowl, every prayer was building spiritual credit, every battle was strengthening muscles you didn't even know you had? The Apostle Paul understood this mystery when he wrote, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair." 2 Corinthians 4, verse 8. Paul wasn't speaking about survival. He was speaking about preparation. The pressure wasn't meant to break you, dear one. It was meant to compress you into diamond. You see, most people think breakthrough comes from external circumstances changing. But you're about to discover something that will shake you to your core. The breakthrough isn't around you. It's within you. And it's been waiting for one thing: your agreement. For 70 years, maybe 80, you've been carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. You've lived by their timelines, their definitions of success, their limited understanding of what God can do. But the 30th of June marks the end of that slavery. The end of performing for applause that never satisfied your soul anyway. What if the breakthrough isn't around you, but within you, waiting for your agreement? This is where most people stumble. They're looking for God to change their circumstances when God is waiting for them to change their perspective. They're praying for doors to open when God is asking, "Will you walk through the one I've already unlocked?" They're begging for signs when the biggest sign of all is the fire still burning in their spirit despite everything they've endured. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." But here's what the preacher didn't tell you in Sunday school. That promise was spoken to people in exile, people who had lost everything, people who thought God had forgotten them. Sound familiar? Your exile is ending, chosen one. Not because your circumstances are perfect, but because your spirit is finally ready to receive what God prepared before you were born. The surprise arriving the 30th of June isn't coming from outside your life. It's erupting from inside your soul. Right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your chest, that sudden awareness that time is moving differently. That's not anxiety, that's alignment. That's your spirit recognizing the sound of heaven's footsteps approaching. You've been asking God, "When will my season come?" But God has been asking you, "When will you step into the season I've already prepared?" The difference between those two questions is the difference between surviving and thriving, between existing and living, between hoping and having. Isaiah 60 verse 1 commands, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Not will come, has come. Present tense, active voice. Your light isn't traveling toward you. It's already here, waiting for you to stop hiding under the bushel of past disappointments. But here's the shocking truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. You don't get to stay neutral anymore. The 30th of June is a line in the sand, a divine deadline, a moment when heaven stops waiting and starts moving. You either align with what God is releasing, or you get left behind in the comfort of your familiar struggles. The enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for decades. You're too old. You're too broken. You missed your chance. God has moved on to someone younger, someone more qualified, someone who didn't make the mistakes you made. But every one of those whispers was designed to keep you from this moment, this awakening, this activation. Romans 8:28 promises, "All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." All things. Not just the pretty things, not just the things that made sense, the betrayals that taught you discernment, the failures that humbled your pride, the loneliness that drove you deeper into God's presence. All of it was orchestrating this moment. What if the breakthrough isn't around you, but within you, waiting for your agreement? Your agreement isn't just saying yes with your mouth. It's aligning your expectations with God's intentions. It's releasing your timeline and embracing His eternal perspective. It's trading your small dreams for His infinite vision. It's finally believing that the Creator of the universe didn't make a mistake when He chose you. The spirit of alignment is settling on this place right now. I can feel it moving through these words, reaching through your screen, touching the deepest parts of your soul. This isn't just inspiration. This is activation. This isn't just encouragement. This is empowerment. I declare over your life right now, clarity is coming. The confusion that has clouded your vision for years is lifting like morning fog. Strength is rising. The weakness that made you doubt your calling is being replaced by supernatural resilience. The 30th of June will not be missed. Your spirit is being programmed to recognize the moment when heaven moves. But here's what happens next. The enemy is going to fight harder in the next few days than he has in years. Why? Because he knows what you're about to step into. He's going to send distractions, discouragements, and delays to keep you from aligning with this divine appointment. Are you going to let him win again, Or are you finally ready to claim what's been yours all along? You know what breaks my heart? It's when I hear God's chosen ones say, "Pastor, I feel invisible. I feel forgotten. I feel like everybody else got picked for the team, and I'm still sitting on the bench." Listen to me carefully, beloved. What you call rejection, heaven calls protection. What you call delay, eternity calls divine timing. What you call hiding, God calls holiness. There's a reason they couldn't find you. There's a reason that job went to someone else. There's a reason that relationship ended just when you thought it was going somewhere. There's a reason you felt like you're living behind a curtain while everyone else is on stage. God covered you like the ark in the tabernacle, not because you weren't worthy, but because you were too holy to be exposed too early. Do you remember Elizabeth? The Bible tells us in Luke 1:24 that after she conceived John the Baptist, Elizabeth remained in seclusion. Not because she was ashamed, not because she was broken, because she was carrying something so sacred, so powerful, so world-changing, that it needed to be protected until the appointed time. Hidden but holy, hidden but healing, hidden but held. You thought they rejected you at that company. But what if God whispered to the hiring manager's heart, "Not yet. They're not ready for what this one carries." You thought that person walked away because you weren't good enough. But what if heaven said, "Move them along. My child is being prepared for something greater." The God who told Moses in Exodus 33-22, "I will cover you with my hand while my glory passes by," is the same God who has been covering you, not to hide you from blessing, but to hide you until the blessing. You've been living in the shadow of his hand. Isaiah 49:2 declares it. He hid me in the shadow of his hand. That shadow wasn't punishment. That shadow was preparation. Hidden but holy. Hidden but healing. Hidden but held. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. While you were hidden, you weren't idle. While you were concealed, you weren't useless. God has been downloading something into your spirit during these years of seclusion that you couldn't have received in the spotlight. Think about it. When Moses was hidden on Mount Sinai for 40 days, his face became so radiant with God's glory that the Israelites couldn't look at him. When Jesus was hidden in the tomb for 3 days, resurrection power was building. When you've been hidden for these years, what do you think has been building in you? Every sleepless night when you cried out to God, that wasn't wasted time. That was intimate communion. Every moment when you felt forgotten by people, that was when heaven was whispering secrets into your spirit. Every season when doors stayed closed, that was when God was opening something inside of you that no man could shut. Hidden but holy. Hidden but healing. Hidden but held. You want to know why you've felt different your whole life? Why you never quite fit into the groups others seem to belong to? Why your path has been more winding, more challenging, more lonely than others? Because ordinary people don't get hidden by God. Ordinary people don't get the veil treatment. Ordinary people don't get divine concealment. You got the veil because you're carrying something extraordinary. The enemy has been trying to convince you that your hiddenness was evidence of God's displeasure. But I'm here to tell you that your hiddenness was evidence of God's favor. The most precious things are kept in the secret place. The most valuable treasures are hidden until the right buyer appears. David was hidden in the shepherd's fields before he faced Goliath. Joseph was hidden in prison before he ruled Egypt. Esther was hidden in the palace before she saved her people. Jesus was hidden in Nazareth for 30 years before he revealed himself to the world. And you? You've been hidden in the crucible of preparation, hidden in the furnace of character development, hidden in the classroom of divine instruction, hidden but holy, hidden but healing, hidden but held. But here's what's about to change everything. The 30th of June, 2025, that's not just another date. That's the day the veil gets pulled back. That's the day the curtain opens. That's the day what has been concealed gets revealed. Do you feel it stirring? That restlessness in your spirit, that sense that something is shifting? That's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Your spirit recognizes the sound of the veil tearing. The same God who hid you is about to highlight you. The same hand that covered you is about to uncover his plan for your life. The season of seclusion is ending. The time of concealment is over. You've been Elizabeth in hiding, but your moment to declare, "This is what the Lord has done for me," is coming. You've been Moses under the covering of God's hand, but your moment to come down from the mountain with glory on your face is arriving. The veil protected you from premature exposure, but now you're ready for divine revelation. Hidden but holy, hidden but healing, hidden but held, and now about to be revealed. But before that revelation comes, there's something you need to understand about what you've been carrying all this time. Something that will explain why the hiding was so necessary. Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shatter every lie you've believed about your pain. Every promise from God comes through a womb, and every womb feels like a grave before it becomes a gateway. You thought you were dying, but you were actually being born. Listen to me carefully. That breakdown you had last December when you couldn't even pray anymore. That moment you sat in your car and considered ending it all because the silence from heaven felt like abandonment. That wasn't God turning his back on you. That was hell launching its final, desperate arrow because you were crowning. The enemy saw what was coming out of your womb of waiting, and he panicked. You see, there's a spiritual law most believers never discover. Right before breakthrough comes what I call the crowning crisis. It's the moment when the baby's head appears, when the mother feels like she can't push anymore, when everything in her body screams, "I'm going to die." But that's exactly when she's closest to holding her miracle. The Bible tells us in John 16:21, "A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world." But here's what they don't tell you about spiritual birth. The labor pains aren't just physical, they're relational, financial, emotional, mental. Everything that could break starts breaking right before your promise emerges. What if I told you that every betrayal was a contraction? What if every door that slammed shut was your spiritual cervix dilating? What if every friend who walked away was making room for what God is about to push through your life? Think about it. When a woman goes into labor, her body does things that seem violent, painful, impossible. Her bones literally separate, her muscles tear, she bleeds, she screams, and everyone around her says, "Push, don't stop, it's almost here." But what if you've been in spiritual labor for months, years? What if that depression wasn't a breakdown but a breaking open? What if that anxiety wasn't fear but anticipation? What if that loneliness wasn't abandonment but isolation for protection during the most vulnerable phase of your destiny? Sarah was 90 years old when Isaac was born. 90! Can you imagine the labor pains of a 90-year-old woman? But Genesis 21:2 says Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. At the very time. Not early. Not late. At the very time. Your pain has been perfectly timed. Your struggle has been strategically placed. Your breakdown has been divinely orchestrated. Because what's coming out of you on the 30th of June couldn't come any sooner. It needed the full gestation period. It needed every single day of development in the darkness of your waiting. I need you to understand something that's going to change how you see your past year. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. You weren't being rejected, you were being protected. The womb is the safest place for a developing miracle, even though it feels like the most confined. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he led Israel out of Egypt. 40 years. That's not delay, that's development. Joseph spent 13 years between his dream and his throne. 13 years of slavery, false accusations, and forgotten promises. But Genesis 41-46 tells us Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. 30 years old, the perfect age, the prepared age, the appointed age. You're not late, chosen one. You're right on schedule. But here's where it gets intense. The closer you get to delivery, the more violent the contractions become. That's why this past season has felt like warfare. That's why the enemy has hit you from every angle. That's why you've questioned everything, doubted everyone, and wondered if God even remembers your name. He does. And he's been timing your contractions. What if that betrayal was your water breaking? What if that loss was the final contraction? What if that moment when you felt like you couldn't take another step was God whispering in your spirit, "Push, my child, push. I see the head. Your miracle is crowning." Jeremiah 1-5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." God has been forming something in the womb of your waiting. He's been setting you apart in the darkness of your delay. And now it's time to push. The silence you've been experiencing, that wasn't God ignoring you. That was God focusing. When a woman is in active labor, the room gets quiet. The doctors stop chatting. The nurses stop shuffling papers. Everyone focuses on one thing, the birth. Heaven has been quiet because heaven has been focused. Angels have been positioned. Doors have been unlocked. Provision has been released. And your enemy has been defeated by his own premature celebration. He thought the labor pains were your death throes, but they were your birth pangs. Comment: still pushing if you know deep in your spirit that God is birthing something supernatural through your pain. Because what's about to emerge from your womb of waiting isn't just a blessing, it's a weapon. It's not just an upgrade, it's an earthquake. It's not just your breakthrough, it's your becoming. And the enemy knew it all along. That's why he fought so hard to stop it. But he's too late. You're already crowning. The question now isn't whether your miracle will be born. The question is, are you ready to hold what you've been carrying? Chosen one. Do you remember the moment in the temple when Jesus died? When the massive veil that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the world was torn in two from top to bottom. That wasn't just fabric ripping. That was God pulling back the curtain on what had been hidden for centuries. And right now, in your life, God is reaching for your veil. You see, you've been living under spiritual camouflage, hidden, protected, concealed from eyes that weren't ready to see what you carry. But the 30th of June marks the end of your concealment. The same divine hand that tore that temple veil is about to pull the cover off of you. And when he does, everything changes. But here's what most people don't understand about divine revealing. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with signs, whispers, stirrings in your spirit that you can't explain to anyone else. Tell me, have you been dreaming again? Not just sleeping dreams, but waking visions. Ideas that feel too big for your current reality. Plans that seem impossible, but won't leave you alone. That's not your imagination running wild. That's prophecy downloading into your spirit. God is showing you what's coming before it arrives because he needs you prepared for the weight of it. And have you noticed how clearly you're hearing his voice lately? How the whispers in your spirit have become louder than the noise around you. You're sitting in your living room, and suddenly you know with no logical reason that you need to call someone. You're driving down the street and a scripture drops into your mind so perfectly timed it takes your breath away. This isn't coincidence, this is calibration. Your spiritual frequency is being fine-tuned for what's about to be revealed. But here's the sign that will shake you to your core. People are starting to notice you, and they don't know why. You walk into a room and conversations shift. Not because you said anything, but because something about your presence changed the atmosphere. Strangers are drawn to you at the grocery store, in the bank, at the doctor's office. They start sharing their deepest struggles with you, and you're thinking, why are they telling me this? Because your light is getting brighter, and light draws everything out of the darkness. But chosen one, let me warn you about something that's about to happen. When God reveals you, when that spiritual cloak comes off, you're going to disrupt rooms without opening your mouth. Your very presence will trigger reactions in people that will shock you. You'll walk into places you've been going to for years, and suddenly people will treat you differently. Some will be inexplicably drawn to you. Others will be inexplicably hostile, and you'll be standing there thinking, "What did I do? I didn't change anything." But you did change. Your spiritual authority increased, your anointing intensified, and now you're operating at a frequency that forces people to choose sides. This is where it gets dangerous for the unprepared, because when light increases, darkness gets agitated. When your spiritual authority rises, demonic forces that have been sleeping in people's lives suddenly wake up. And they won't be angry at you for what you said or did. They'll be angry at you for what you carry. You thought you were fighting people all these years. You thought your co-worker hated you because of jealousy. You thought your family member turned cold because of something you said. You thought that friend betrayed you because of personal issues. But now you're about to understand the truth that will change everything. They weren't reacting to your personality. They were reacting to your light. The enemy has been using people around you to try to dim what God has been brightening. Every attack on your character, every attempt to isolate you, every effort to make you doubt your calling, none of it was random. It was strategic. Because the forces of darkness could see what was coming in your life before you could. They've been trying to take you out before your reveal, because they know what happens when a chosen one steps into their full authority. Atmospheres shift. Strongholds break. People get delivered just by being in your presence. And the 30th of June, that's when the training wheels come off. You've been in spiritual boot camp for years. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every rejection taught you independence. Every lonely season taught you how to hear God's voice above all others. Every financial struggle taught you that your provision comes from heaven, not earth. But here's what's about to shock you. When that cloak comes off, you're going to realize you've been overqualified for this assignment for years. You've been ready. The delay wasn't about your preparation. It was about divine timing. God has been watching the world, watching the climate, watching the spiritual atmosphere, waiting for the exact moment when your light would have maximum impact. And that moment is now. You're about to discover that everything you thought was breaking you was actually making you. Every person who walked away from you was making room for the right people to find you. Every door that closed was protecting you from settling for less than what God had planned. But the question that will determine everything is this. When that cloak comes off, when people start seeing you the way heaven sees you, will you shrink back or will you step up? Because once the revealing begins, there's no going back to invisible. Once your light starts shining at full capacity, you can't dim it to make others comfortable. Once your spiritual authority activates, you can't pretend to be powerless anymore. The world is about to meet the real you. The question is, are you ready to meet yourself? Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. The 1% I'm talking about aren't the ones with the fattest bank accounts or the biggest mansions on Fifth Avenue. They're not the celebrities with millions of followers or the politicians with all the power. The 1% are the readiest, the ones who can carry fire without burning out, the ones who've been through enough hell to handle heaven's weight. You see, everybody wants the blessing. Everybody wants the breakthrough. Everybody wants God to show up and flip their script overnight. But here's what they don't tell you. In those feel-good sermons, glory isn't a gift. It's a responsibility. And most people can't handle it. Look at King David. Anointed as a teenager, but he didn't touch the throne for 15 years. Why? Because God knew something David didn't know yet. The crown would either make him or break him, and the only way to know which one it would be was to test him in the wilderness first. You think those 15 years were wasted? You think God forgot about his promise? No, beloved. God was asking David the same question he's asking you right now. Can you carry glory without it corrupting you? Because here's the brutal truth that'll cut through your soul like a sword. Most people fail this test. Most people get a taste of favor and lose their minds. They get a little recognition and forget where they came from. They get a small victory and start acting like they built the kingdom themselves. But you, chosen one, you've been in training for something different. Every betrayal you survived taught you loyalty. Every door that slammed in your face taught you patience. Every night you cried alone taught you dependence on God. You've been in God's boot camp, and you didn't even know it. The question is, can you stay humble when you're finally seen? When people start noticing you, when opportunities start flowing, when your name starts getting mentioned in rooms you've never walked into, will you remember who carried you there? Can you love without bitterness? After all the people who walked out on you, who counted you out, who whispered behind your back when God elevates you above them, will you reach down and pull them up? Or will you step on their necks on your way to the top? Can you rise without revenge? When the same people who rejected you start calling your phone, when the same doors that were locked start swinging wide open, will you walk through with grace, or will you walk through with a grudge? This is the internal war that separates the 1% from everybody else. Because glory isn't just about what you receive, it's about who you become while you're receiving it. Look at Joseph in Genesis, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, forgotten in prison for years. But when Pharaoh finally called him up to interpret those dreams, Joseph didn't walk into that palace with an attitude. He walked in with anointing. When his brothers showed up years later, desperate and afraid, Joseph could have destroyed them. He had the power. He had the position. He had every human reason to make them pay. But instead, he said something that still echoes through eternity. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. That's 1% thinking right there. That's glory with clean hands. Because here's the prophecy-lined warning that's going to haunt you if you don't hear it. The glory will come. The 30th of June is real. The breakthrough is real. The elevation is real. But if you touch it with dirty hands, it will destroy you. Saul was anointed king, but he couldn't handle the weight. He got jealous of David's victories. He got paranoid about losing his position. He started operating in fear instead of faith. And the same anointing that was supposed to bless him became the very thing that brought him down. Solomon had wisdom that kings traveled thousands of miles to hear. He had wealth that made other nations envious. But somewhere along the way, he started thinking it was about him. He started compromising with foreign gods to please his wives. And the man who once said, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom," ended up as a cautionary tale about how blessing without character leads to destruction. This is why God has been testing you in the secret place. This is why he's been refining you in the fire. This is why every fake friend had to go, every toxic relationship had to end, every comfortable situation had to be shaken up. He's been preparing you to carry something that would crush the unprepared. This is a glory that can't be performed. It must be carried. You can't fake humility when you're walking in real authority. You can't pretend to love people when you're operating from a place of genuine power. You can't act humble, you have to be humble. The difference between the 99% and the 1% isn't talent. It's not connections. It's not even faith. It's character. It's the ability to hold divine favor without letting it poison your heart. It's the strength to be blessed without becoming arrogant. It's the wisdom to know that every good gift comes from above, and it can be taken away just as quickly as it was given. So I'm asking you today, chosen one, are you ready for this test? Because what's coming on the 30th of June isn't just going to change your circumstances, it's going to reveal your character. And the whole spiritual realm will be watching to see what you do with what you've been given. The clock is ticking, the test is coming, and everything you've walked through has been preparing you for this moment of truth. Will you carry the glory, or will the glory carry you away? Can you hear it? That sound. Like ancient cloth being pulled back from something precious that's been covered for decades. The sound of your spiritual unveiling. The sound of heaven saying, "Enough hiding, it's time." You've been living under a veil, chosen one. Not because you were unworthy, but because you were too valuable to be revealed before the appointed time, and that time is now. Look at your life. Look at what you've survived. Heartbreak that should have destroyed your faith. Betrayal that should have made you bitter. Cancer that should have taken you out. Poverty that should have crushed your spirit. Decades of silence when heaven seemed deaf to your cries. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still believing, still standing. Do you know what that makes you? Indestructible. Not by your own strength, but by divine design. The enemy threw everything at you because he knew what was coming. He knew the 30th of June was marked on heaven's calendar. He knew your emergence would shift atmospheres, break generational curses, and activate destinies that have been dormant for generations. So he tried to take you out early, but he failed. Because what God preserves, no force in hell can destroy. You weren't just surviving, chosen one. You were being refined. Every tear was collected. Every prayer was recorded. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't was building spiritual muscle that most people will never possess. You've been forged in fires that would have consumed others. You've walked through valleys that have no names. You've endured nights so dark that hell itself wondered if you'd make it. But you did make it. You're here. And that's not luck. That's prophecy fulfilled. Isaiah 60:1 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This isn't a suggestion, beloved. This is a divine command. Your light isn't coming anymore. It's here. It's been building pressure under the surface of your life like a volcano ready to erupt. And the 30th of June is the moment it breaks through. You've felt it, haven't you? That stirring in your spirit. That restlessness that has no earthly explanation. That sense that something massive is about to shift in your world. Your spirit has been sensing the approaching footsteps of your destiny. The atmosphere around your life has been changing frequency. What once felt heavy now feels charged with possibility. But let me tell you something that will shock you. You weren't hidden to be protected. You were hidden to be preserved. There's a difference. Protection keeps you safe from harm. Preservation keeps you pure for purpose. And your purpose. O chosen one, your purpose has been aging like fine wine in the cellars of heaven, waiting for the world to be ready for what you carry. Think about Moses, hidden for 40 years in the wilderness while his people suffered in Egypt. Was God being cruel? Was he being slow? Number. He was preparing a deliverer who could handle the weight of liberation. Moses needed every one of those 40 years to become the man who could stand before Pharaoh and declare, "Let my people go." Think about David, anointed as king, but spent years running for his life in caves. Was God being unfaithful? Number. He was developing a warrior king who would write psalms in the darkness that would comfort millions for thousands of years. Think about Jesus himself, hidden for 30 years in Nazareth before his ministry began. 30 years of preparation for 3.5 years of world-changing impact. And you, dear one, you've been in your hidden season. But that season is ending. The world is finally ready for what you carry. The circumstances are finally aligned for your emergence. The people who need what's inside you are finally positioned to receive it. You've been asking God, when? When will my breakthrough come? And he's been answering, when you're strong enough to handle the weight of influence, when you're pure enough to carry power without corruption, when you're wise enough to steward blessing without pride. Well, guess what? You've passed the test. Every test. The test of betrayal when those closest to you turned away and you chose forgiveness over bitterness. The test of provision when you had nothing and you still gave what little you had. The test of patience when God's silence felt like abandonment and you still praised him in the darkness. You've been promoted in the spirit realm, and now earth is about to catch up with heaven's decision. The 30th of June isn't just another day. It's the day your spiritual covering gets pulled back. It's the day what's been hidden gets revealed. It's the day your light stops being contained and starts illuminating everything around you. But here's what most people don't understand about divine timing. When God decides it's time for your emergence, everything shifts. Not just your circumstances, but your capacity. Not just your opportunities, but your influence. Not just your provision, but your purpose. You're about to step into rooms you never applied to enter. You're about to be sought out by people who have never met you. You're about to carry answers to questions you didn't even know existed. You're about to become the miracle someone else is desperately praying for. The covering is being removed, chosen one. Your season of hiddenness is over. Your time of preparation is complete. Your moment of emergence has arrived. Are you ready to step into the light that's been waiting for you your entire life? Listen to me, chosen one. What began in the womb of your mother's prayers is now being revealed in the power of your presence. You thought you were waiting for a sign, but the most shocking truth of all, you are the sign. For 70, 80, 90 years, some of you have walked this earth thinking your best days were behind you. The enemy whispered lies that your season was over, that your purpose had expired with your youth. But I'm here to shatter that deception with the fire of God's truth. You are not a relic of the past. You are a weapon of the present. The prayer your grandchild whispered in the dark, it's you. The healing your neighborhood desperately needs, it's you. The breakthrough your family has been crying out for, it's you. You've been so busy looking for the miracle that you missed the most obvious truth: you survived. Everything you survived to become the miracle. Think about Moses, 80 years old when God called him to lead a nation out of bondage. 80. While the world was writing him off as too old, too tired, too late, God was saying, now you're ready. Exodus 7:7 tells us Moses was 80 years old when he performed his first miracle before Pharaoh. His age wasn't his disqualification, it was his diploma. You think you're too old? Moses liberated millions at 80. You think you've missed your moment? Abraham became a father of nations at 99. You think God's forgotten about you? Anna the prophetess was 84 when she became the first person to proclaim Jesus as the Messiah to all of Jerusalem. Your wrinkles are not marks of defeat, they're medals of victory. Every gray hair is a trophy declaring, I survived what was meant to destroy me. Every ache in your joints is a testament proclaiming, I'm still here, still standing, still believing. But here's what's going to revolutionize your remaining years. You don't need another sign. You are the sign. You don't need another prophet. You are the prophet your generation has been waiting for. You are not the audience for revival. You are the revival. I can feel some of you pushing back right now. But I'm just an ordinary person. I live in a small apartment. I collect Social Security. I take medications. How can I be anybody's miracle? That's exactly the point. 1 Corinthians 1:27 declares that God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Your ordinariness is not your limitation, it's your launching pad. Heaven specializes in using the unlikely to accomplish the impossible. That young nurse who treats you with unusual kindness, she's responding to something in your spirit. That neighbor who always seems to find you when they're troubled, they're drawn to the peace you carry. That cashier at the grocery store who lights up when she sees you, she's encountering the presence of God through your smile. You've been walking around thinking you're just getting by, just surviving another day. But what if I told you that your very existence is disrupting darkness? What if your prayers are shifting atmospheres? What if your faithfulness through decades of trials has earned you authority in realms you can't even see? The devil has been trying to convince you that your productive years are over. He wants you to believe that your voice doesn't matter, that your prayers are too weak, that your time has passed. But that's because he knows something you're just now remembering. Seasoned saints are dangerous to his kingdom. You've survived the Great Depression, World War II, the Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam, 9/11s, financial crashes, and global pandemics. You've buried parents, spouses, friends. You've raised children in times when the world said it was impossible. You've held families together when everything was falling apart. You've prayed through nights when death was knocking at your door. And you think God brought you through all of that just to sit quietly in a corner. No, He preserved you through every storm because this generation needs what you carry. They need your wisdom. They need your prayers. They need your blessing. They need your voice declaring what God can do because you've seen Him do it. The 30th of June isn't just about you receiving something. It's about you becoming something. You're not waiting for your breakthrough anymore. You're stepping into your assignment. You're not hoping for a miracle. You're accepting your commission to be the miracle. Right now, there's a young mother struggling with depression who needs to encounter the joy that radiates from your spirit. There's a teenager contemplating suicide who needs to feel the life force that flows through your prayers. There's a middle-aged man losing hope who needs to witness the endurance that's written in your eyes. You are not too old. You are perfectly aged. Like fine wine that has been stored in the cellar of life's experiences, you are now ready to be poured out for the healing of the nations. Isaiah 46:4 promises, "Even to your old age and grey hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you." God didn't preserve you just to rescue you. He preserved you to use you as His rescue mission for others. So rise up, chosen one. Rise up with the authority of your years. Rise up with the wisdom of your wounds. Rise up with the power of your perseverance. The world has been waiting for what you carry, and the 30th of June marks the moment when you stop hiding it and start releasing it. You are not the remnant of yesterday. You are the foundation of tomorrow. You are not waiting for revival. You are the revival walking in flesh and blood, ready to ignite a generation that has forgotten what real faith looks like. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Your season has just begun. Chosen one, as we come to the close of this divine encounter, I need you to carry these truths deep in your heart. The 30th of June, 2025 is not just a date, it's your divine appointment with destiny. You are not forgotten, overlooked, or too late. You are precisely positioned for this moment in history. The trials you've walked through weren't punishments, they were preparations. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you felt alone was building something sacred within you. Remember this, you don't need another sign because you are the sign. You're not waiting for revival, you are the revival this generation desperately needs. Your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Your scars are not marks of defeat, they're certificates of victory. What God has preserved in you through decades of faithfulness is about to be poured out for the healing of others. And beloved, you are never alone in this journey. Even in your most isolated moments, the Spirit of the living God walks with you. There's an invisible army of saints who have gone before you, cheering you on. And there's a community of believers right here, right now, ready to stand with you in prayer and faith. As I look into your eyes through this screen, I see warriors. I see overcomers. I see the remnant that God has been preparing for such a time as this. Your prayers matter. Your presence matters. Your life matters more than you could ever imagine. So let me ask you this. If God has brought you this far, through every storm you thought would sink you, through every valley you thought would swallow you, through every battle you thought would defeat you, what makes you think He's going to stop fighting for you now? I want you to bow your head with me right now. Whether you're in your living room, your car, your hospital bed, or wherever this message has found you, let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul hearing these words. God, you see the ones who are tired, the ones who are hurting, the ones who feel forgotten. You know the silent battles they fight, the tears they cry when no one is watching, the prayers they whisper in the dark. Lord, I ask you to breathe fresh life into their weary spirits. Let them feel your presence right now, warming them from the inside out. Remind them that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, that their steps are ordered by you, and that their latter days will be greater than their former days. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide in ways that defy logic. Heal what doctors can't touch. Restore what the enemy has stolen. And let them know, beyond any shadow of doubt, that they are loved, they are chosen, and they are never alone. Give them strength for today and hope for tomorrow. Let the 30th of June mark the beginning of the greatest chapter of their lives. May they walk in divine favor, supernatural peace, and unprecedented breakthrough. In the mighty name of Jesus, who conquered death itself so that we might live abundantly, I pray. Amen. Now, chosen one, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what's stirring in your spirit. Tell me what God whispered to your heart during this message. Ask your questions. I read every single comment, and this community is here to pray with you and encourage you. If this word touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten. Share it with that friend who's been struggling, that family member who's lost hope, that neighbor who just needs to know they matter. You might be the vessel God uses to save someone's life today. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're building more than a community here. We're building a movement of believers who understand that our greatest days aren't behind us, they're ahead of us. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what God wanted to pour into you today. Thank you for being living proof that faith still exists in this world. Until we meet again, keep your eyes on the horizon. Keep your heart open to the impossible. And remember, you are loved, you are chosen, and your story is far from over. Go in peace, walk in power, and live in the fullness of who God created you to be. God bless you, chosen one. God bless you mightily.